I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell voiced his support of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act on the Senate floor Thursday. He described the gun reform legislation as, quote, making America safer, especially for kids in school, without making our country one bit less free. A bipartisan group of senators have been negotiating new gun control measures after a string of mass shootings led to public outcry for action on guns. Take a listen as McConnell lays out what is in the bill.
The American people do not have to choose between safer schools and the Constitution, and neither does the United States Senate. The American people want their constitutional rights protected and their kids to be safe in school. They want both of those things at once, and that is just what the bill before the Senate will help accomplish. Thanks to the leadership and dedication of Senator Cornyn, Senator Tillis, and several of their counterparts across the aisle, we're considering a bipartisan bill that will make our country safer without making it any less free. This is the sweet spot, Madam President, making America safer, especially for kids in school, without making our country one bit less free. The legislation before us would make our communities and schools safer without laying one finger on the Second Amendment for law-abiding citizens. Its key provisions are hugely popular with the American people. This bill supplies significant new funding to law enforcement and police, to school security, and to mental health treatment, both in school and in the wider community. Under this bill, if a teenager has been convicted of a crime or adjudicated to be mentally ill, even before their 18th birthday, that important information will show up in the firearms background check until they are 21. This strengthens the existing background check system without expanding it. States will receive new money for crisis intervention programs of their own choosing. And if they choose to use the money for so-called red flag laws, those laws will have to meet a new, higher standard for due process. This is a common sense package. Its provisions are very, very popular. It contains zero new restrictions, zero new waiting periods, zero mandates, and zero bans of any kind for law-abiding gun owners. Police and law enforcement support the bill strongly. The Police Chiefs Association and the Fraternal Order of Police say this bipartisan measure is one that will save lives, according to the FOP and the Police Chiefs Association. The National Sheriff's Association calls it, quote, a bill that can actually save lives, that allows the states to craft their own unique answers to the questions raised by gun violence. After years, literally years, of liberal demands that we make war on citizens' constitutional rights, our Democratic colleagues have finally accepted that we can make schools and communities safer without impeding on the Second Amendment. We can do more to protect innocent Americans, school kids especially, without eroding the Bill of Rights 1 inch. And that's just what the Senate will do when we pass this bill. Speaking of public safety, as the Supreme Court prepares to issue its final opinions of the term, far-left activists are openly calling for riots and violence in the streets. For months, many of the country's most prominent Democrats have indulged in reckless talk and irresponsible rhetoric, fanning the flames of fear and rage among their supporters. This poisonous climate has illegal mobs assembling outside justices' private family homes and prompted one unhinged person to travel across the country for the purpose of committing an assassination. The far left is promising that all of this will only be the prelude to the main event if they don't like the rulings coming down the pike. One activist group is promising that our cities will be submerged in, quote, listen to this, a night of rage. Well, yesterday, the Senate unanimously passed some supplemental funding for law enforcement to protect the rule of law and to keep the court, its staff, and the justices safe from all this. This non-controversial funding passed here unanimously last night, 0 objections. The House of Representatives needs to pass this urgent bill without delay. On another matter, in 2021, on President Biden's watch, each monthly total for illegal migrant apprehensions was higher than the same month's number the previous year. Same thing's happening in 2022. Every month has topped the total from 12 months prior. In fact, this past May didn't just eclipse May of 2021, it set a new all-time record. Border Patrol officers conducted nearly 240,000 apprehensions in May, and 25% of them, an unusually high rate, involved migrants they had apprehended before in just the past year. These jaw-dropping numbers are a clear and direct symptom of failed leadership. The Biden administration is making a conscious decision to fumble the ball. Last spring, right after apprehensions hit a 20-year high, President Biden claimed, quote, it's way down. We've now gotten control. Look, no reasonable person could have looked at the facts and concluded that things were under control. But that's exactly what President Biden and his team insisted. Apparently, a functionally open border is how they define success. A functionally open border is how apparently they define success. Senate Democrats rubber stamped the Biden nominees who are presiding over this failure. The Biden DHS swiftly issued internal guidance encouraging ICE and CBP personnel to use more politically correct terminology when referring to the border crisis. They were quicker to police employees' language than to actually police the border. Vice President Harris spent her time as the administration's supposed border czar, staying as far away as possible from the border itself. Just this spring, President Biden submitted a budget request that would cut funding for immigration and customs enforcement detention. He also promised to cut out the emergency authorities that border officials were relying on in the absence of a coherent strategy from his administration, to turn away thousands of illegal migrants every single day. Their response to a functional open border is just to hit the gas pedal. Stable prices, public safety, and secure borders are 3 of the most fundamental duties of any government. Sadly, from our country, the Biden administration has swung and missed 3 times. Now, on a totally different matter, today I have the honor of acknowledging a longtime Senate staff member who's proceeding to a well-earned retirement at the end of this month. Billy Walsh has been with the Secretary of the Senate's office for 19 years. He spent several years as an assistant bill clerk before moving to the Journal's clerk's office and working his way up to that top post. As the Senate's Journal clerk for the last 4 years, Billy has brought both good humor and professional dedication to his work serving the Senate. So, Billy, congratulations on your retirement, and thank you for your service. And on one final matter, yesterday was a sad day for the Senate. We learned that we lost a distinguished, long-serving staff leader in our institution. Leona Faust had served her country as Senate librarian for the past 12 years, and that key position was the capstone of a long and storied Senate career that had just entered its 45th year. Everyone who knew Leona had sterling praise for her work. I've heard our librarian described by her friends and colleagues as devoted to the institution. As a true Senate all-star, as the first to volunteer whenever a task needed tackling. Leona was a beloved colleague. She was also an expert whose professionalism and institutional knowledge filled an essential niche in the Senate's day-to-day functioning. As leader of a talented team, Leona was constantly looking for new ways to expand the resources the library offers to senators and to our staff. She was instrumental in expanding the references and databases of the Senate's information system, especially as the pandemic left big chunks of the institution to working and researching remotely for a while. Year after year, she demonstrated her devotion, often without much fanfare. The Senate library staff pulled long hours attending to pressing questions here on the floor. Leona led by example. She made herself available at all hours. So the Senate hasn't just lost a talented librarian who helped people find resources they needed. We lost a true steward of the institution who had become a resource herself in her own right. Our prayers today are with Leona's family, with her colleagues at the Senate Library, and with everyone across the Senate who spent decades admiring Leona's commitment and her expertise, and who are now joined together in mourning her loss.